I'm Amanda Fisher. I'm a 42-year-old mother who's married. I now live in Swindon. I originate from a place called Zambia, which is in Central Africa. I was born there. My father was a miner, a surveyor who went out there. It was a wonderful life. It was very, very beautiful. Felt very privileged. Lots of sporting opportunities, which are very expensive for children in Swindon these days, or teenagers. But it was all on our doorstep, and we had the weather to do it all, which makes children much more outgoing. I had a lovely life. It was very privileged. My parents had quite a lot of money. We had a swimming pool in the garden. We played and frolicked and had fun all day and didn't seem to have that many worries. My parents tried to make me aware of others. I used to have to finish with a few toys that were given by other expats, and they used to make me take them to an orphanage once a year, ready for Christmas. And clothes, whatever we may have had. It was a very privileged life, but you could see there was lots of very poor African children, and you were aware that you had an awful lot. They were all very sweet and very smiley and very beautiful, very kind. Very, very different to our children today who have everything and are quite spoilt. They were happy with a smile. If you smiled at them, they giggled and they laughed, they danced, and even as a child you knew that. Actually, one bit of kindness is, don't know, it makes people's lives who haven't got anything, just somebody being kind and gentle. So I was very lucky. And when I was 18, I went to boarding school in South Africa, and when I was 18 and finishing school, didn't know what I wanted to do. So I decided that I would go to college in the UK, and I went to a secretarial college, a private secretarial college, for just over a year, which I really loved. And then I went back to Zambia, one final try to see if I could work on a game reserve. Although I was born in Zambia and brought up there, I couldn't get a work permit. And I thought once I'd done some secretarial training, it might give me some admin background, which perhaps local people wouldn't have had, and therefore they might have let me work on the game reserve and do a bit of both, a bit of paperwork and do things with the animals. But it wasn't to be. It was a definite no-no. So I went back to Cheltenham and got various jobs temping, and it was, my first experience was arriving on a bus, getting the plane to Heathrow, and then finding National Express, getting on National Express, and seeing snow. And I was looking out the window and I didn't know if it was snow or not snow, and it's not how you see it on the movies. Looking, feeling really silly, and I said to a lady next to me, is that snow? And she was like, yes. And I came to England and it was totally different, and people were very different in this country. And I didn't like it. I really, really didn't like it. I didn't like the humdrum of the daily life. I didn't like the fact that, you know, you get up early at 6 o'clock in the morning and go jogging and play tennis and do things, and people thought you were a freak for doing sporty things and doing all those things all the time. Come on, let's watch EastEnders, let's go down the pub, let's do this, let's do that. And it was like, if you just did a little bit of sport, you would see how exhilarated you'd feel. And nobody ever wanted to do it. So I found other people that were from countries like Zaire, South Africa, Zambia, and we did similar things. We used to have fun. We used to sit in the park. We used to drink in the park. We went to college. We hired boats. It was a very, very different life to Africa. Lived in Chepstow. We had moved about with work and children, and we were living in Chepstow, and my husband had been made redundant, and he was the main breadwinner, and we decided that we couldn't sustain the lifestyle that we had without his salary. So we decided to rent our house out, and we moved in with my mother-in-law whilst my husband was looking for work. I felt a little bit tired and didn't feel very well, and thought that I may have something wrong with me and that we may need my mother-in-law's help. And we arrived in Swindon, and I find the people of Swindon very, very down to earth and very lovely. And I would say it was similar to Zambia, that a lot of people are salt of the earth. A lot of people are very, very basic. And I don't mean basic in that way, I mean that people don't all have an awful lot financially, and sometimes that makes people very kind. So on that half, I find Swindon very warming and people are very friendly. But as for the town itself, it's very grey, non-enjoyable. I don't particularly like shopping here. I know there's tennis courts and things that are free round at the back of the town gardens, but I find it quite a sad town. There's not an awful lot to do for people. There's not a lot of extra activities outside of the home and fun things to do that don't cost money. Everything in Swindon is, how can I say it without sounding? It is what you would consider almost like a mining, you know, that sort of village, people that don't have an awful lot of money. It is a humdrum type of town, isn't it? But the people are fun. I would stay in Swindon because my children are at school and they fitted in. My eldest, who was only 8, nearly 8, when he arrived in Swindon, started off on his first day of school. He came home and he said, "Oh, Mummy, it's very rough, isn't it, after being in a village school?" But actually, the people are quite wholesome when you know them. A lot of people's hearts are good, and that's really important. And they seem to have settled well in Swindon. They enjoy it, they like their life, they like the ease, as we walk or cycle to school, rather than long transports, which, we'll stay. Sorry, going on and on. Yes, I think we would stay. We would stay for the children until they're quite a bit older.